The Jeremiah Show and Anaïs Reno present Lady of the Lavender Mist. We're talking with jazz vocalist Anaïs Reno. She just released her second studio album on Club 44 Records, and it's called, can you guess? Lady of the Lavender Mist. Um, what's the story? I think you started to mention it, but what? Maybe you mentioned it totally, and if you did, just I'll skip this question. But what's that story that you imagined for the Lady of the Lavender Mist? Was it that she got trapped and that was the end of the story, or what?
I
What?
don't think she
What's
really
this?
got trapped. I think that maybe she felt she did.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
what's your story?
the details of that, I guess, go into more of a specific lyric analysis if I were to
Hmm.
break it down line by line, which I can do,
And
But
you don't have to if you're not. I know some artists don't like to do that. You like
I'm
everybody
cool
to
with whatever.
interpret.
If there's anything specific that comes up, I'm
Well,
fine.
are you the lady of the lavender mist? How
I
much
hope not. No, no, no,
how
no.
much of
The whole
her
point is
is
that
you?
nobody should want to be, It's a cautionary tale against being her.
Okay.
But it's very easy to be her and maybe at times seems graceful and romantic to be her, which is the danger, I think.
Who was she? Was she ever what was she before she was a cautionary tale? Have you gone that far in your imagination?
Yeah, well, it's funny because, and this is not a Duke Ellington record, but I'm like only talking about Duke Ellington. But his other standard sophisticated lady, that song kind of talks about, on at least on a surface level, unless I were to go deeper into it, my version of things. Um, this woman who has kind of, in an effort to numb her pain from love lost in the past, changed her way of life. As they say in the bridge, smoking, drinking, never thinking of tomorrow, nonchalant. It's the sophisticated lady is almost like a taunt of, it's a sympathetic song, but it's almost a taunt of like, this is what you're trying to be because you could never let go of this thing that you, when nobody is nigh, as they say, cry about. And I feel that Lady Lavender Mist is kind of a softer version of that. Instead of this woman retaliating by adopting a lifestyle that isn't true to her and then crying in private, it's more so that she has made herself isolated. And I think the point of not giving a ton of backstory to her is that she has forgotten who she is beyond this life she wished she had and never achieved, beyond this love that she has lost, that she might blame herself for, but now she's bitter because she's waiting for a new love to arrive. And she's haunted by the people passing by happy, and she feels that she has no way to access that anymore. And so it almost feels, from her perspective, maybe, that nothing before then even matters. And that's the exact thing that can be romanticized, I think, of being completely lost in one thing, whether it be love, whether it be your career, relationship, whatever it is, and diminishing your character to that one experience that you are consistently yearning for, never choosing to look past it or change course or make the hard decision to leave in some way. And what can happen is it ends up worse than it would have been had you tried to change course into a direction that you thought was unfathomable in the first place. So that's it in a nutshell, I'd say. Obviously, if I were to go more specific into line by line, there would be more detail to be found there. But even though I know that I've envisioned a bit more of a backstory for her, I'm not sure that that matters so much because the point is that she has, you would say it's been stripped from her, but really she stripped it from herself.
Do you think you've released her ghost with this song, with this
Mm.
album?
Like I've kind of done her
Yeah, you
character vengeance in some way.
yeah, you've released it. You've let her step out of the mist. I don't know.
Huh.
I mean, this struck you on the train. You wrote the story. You put this
Mhm.
album together. In a way, I wonder if
Hadn't thought
you've
about
released it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, hopefully by putting a variety of songs on the album that address exactly that kind of pining and also the releasing of that, I hope that that is kind of achieving a release in some way.
And how much of her experience and her story was yours without getting too personal? I have questions, but I won't go there. But how much, I
I
won't
think
do that to you.
that I never quite got to the point she did. But if you don't make a certain hard decisions and you let difficult situations ruminate for too long, waiting for them to change without you actually enacting some sort of change, that could very well be the case in some way. Obviously it doesn't have to be so literal. Not everybody literally loses every part of themselves outside of a difficult situation, but it can definitely affect your life. It can affect the way that you see yourself as a person. And if you do take the step, which in some ways I did and had to learn through this song and my own experiences, if you do take the step to look outside of this bubble that you're in, it's scary and seems unwelcoming in some ways, but actually in many regards can be lighter and freer than the initial situation you were in ever was, even before it
Mhm.
felt it took a turn for the worse.
We're playing I'll Remember April right now. What do you say about this song? How does it lend itself to the story, the overall arc of the story of the album?
To me, I'll remember April is the ideal. I mean, if we were all perfect beings who could grieve according to the book, I'll remember April, at least in my experience, would be the ideal way of processing something. And again, this is a standard that everybody knows, but it can be done in so many ways, as all of these songs can. And I've heard versions where it's done in a very solemn way, where the subtext underneath these somewhat positive lyrics is actually a deep grief that the narrator doesn't want to quite admit to. But then it can also be done in the way that I did it, which is more of a celebration of being able to smile at something that you've been hurt by, that you have also been made happy by at one point, and ultimately have to let go. But the memory can be enough in some way. And so, if anything, from that perspective, Lady Lavender Mist would have been in a better situation if she had changed her tune, I guess, to the next track on the album.
If she would have just listened a little further.
Yeah.
Take Love Easy.
It
Duke
sounds.
Ellington has obviously had an impact on your musicianship.
Mhm. I'll shut up about that at some point, but I guess today's not the
What?
day.
No, not today. Don't start shutting up now. Keep going.
Yeah, it's just a cute song, and it sort of has an I'll Remember April element to it in the
Hmm.
sense that it's taking the weight off of a situation that could very well have a lot of heaviness to it. But obviously, it has a little bit more of a cheeky, ironic edge to it, which I think is fun. And again, something that I've had to kind of grow into appreciating.
Tell me about Ahmad Jamal. Who was he um, as a musician, as a person, and what is about him that you admire?
He's definitely top three jazz pianists for me. Could be number one, maybe. I mean, how do you define that? I don't know.
Hmm.
But his playing has this infectious playfulness to it while never feeling excessive in any way. It has a lightness that still has a depth. It's really incredible, and he has a very particular sound that so many pianists and musicians otherwise have tried to emulate or have taken inspiration from. And of course, his famous recording of Poinciana from his Live at the Pershing album with that iconic groove that everybody calls the Poinciana groove just based on that one song that Israel Crosby and Vernel Fournier played is one of my favorite tracks to listen to. That album in general is, I mean, this is not a hot take, everybody likes that album, but I felt that I would be remiss if I didn't pay homage in some way. And I love that song itself, Poinciana, even outside of his arrangement. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous song with a lot of simplicity that is very well tailored to the message that it's trying to tell. And I thought, you know, well, I'm releasing this album somewhat shortly after his passing. Gotta do something.
I'm gonna break the radio and the distance spectrum here. When you're talking about him, break that illusion, I guess, that third wall they call it, or fourth wall in film. When you're talking about him, you're in an apartment, I believe, in New York City, and you're talking about him, and you're looking out the window, but you have this look of I don't know, kind of like a sorrow a little bit as you talk about him.
I wish I could have met him.
Yeah, you didn't get to play with him.
Oh no, I mean, that's a different thing. I just wish I could have met him. Just said hi, said thank you.
Well, beautiful song that you've put on the album here to pay homage to him. We're going to go to break here and listen to Round Midnight. What would you like to say about this song on the album?
This one very neatly and gracefully fit into the theme. Again, after I put it on there before I even realized that Lady Lavender Mist had this other connotation to it. But obviously, we all know this song, and it's one of the most recorded jazz standards. But this extended version in which both sets of lyrics to the actual tune, as well as the interlude and outro that Dizzy Gillespie wrote, are all on there. And that wasn't my idea. Carmen McRae has an incredible recording of this where she does that. And I was very inspired by her interpretation because she didn't really sing it like a torch song in the sense that it's just sad and sorrowful. If you watch videos of her singing this, there's a knowingness, there's a hope about it. Even in some places an irony, which is something she did so well, is, like I was saying, taking the weight off of certain heavier leaning songs, in which the narrator is really just trying to extend a hand to the person that they love and figure out a way to relieve midnight, the entity, of its dark connotation, and actually understand that while they're going through a rough time in their relationship, this new day coming upon them can bring a better future for them. And I thought that that was a lot more complex and, like I said, hopeful a way to approach it than this is a moody song, which also has its validity because the melody and harmony would suggest that that's what it is. But even, you know, Monk, when he wrote the music itself, I don't know if those lyrics were exactly what he had in mind message-wise, but there's a lot more to it than just this is sad and I'm gonna make something sad now, you know? And so again, I felt that the relief of darkness from a situation that this narrator is trying to instill in their partner, And also the fact that this song has many times, and was going to initially, been interpreted as simply a torch song, but is actually something a little bit different and not quite as dark necessarily, I felt worked perfectly with the theme. I mean, it doesn't, like, midnight doesn't have to be this fearsome
Mhm.
creature that we always hear it mused about in film and literature and music and all of that. You know, it can have promise.
Anais, it feels like you've got hope right now. You've got excitement. Is
I
that
just
a fair?
graduated. I have to have hope.
Yeah, you got it. But is
Otherwise,
that a
I'm
fair?
back.
It's deeper than that. I mean, it feels. I've talked to you many times now, and it feels like there's a message. There's a message that you're putting out there that you're maybe subtly, but that you want out there, and it feels hopeful. And if that's not true, don't tell me because we need some hope right now. And
Yeah, we do.
um, yeah, and so I like that message. If that's a message that you're putting out with this album,
Yeah.
underlying that
Yeah,
and I,
like don't stay in the dark place too much.
yeah,
Or if you can help it, if it's like a night, that's I think the
that's,
big thing.
that's great advice. All right, we're going to listen to Round Midnight right now. We'll be right back.